Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the TPT podcast. We are live here, as always, with my co host, Zach. We're going to be going over a lot of what's going on in free agency. We know that there's been tons and tons of moves in free agency. Zach, how you doing, man?
Doing good, brother. I got a soccer game in an hour, so I'm locking in. So if y'all see me over here just kind of like zoned in, that's why.
There you go. There you go. Get ready. Man. You gotta play well, man. I heard Sporting KC is going to be out there watching you.
Yeah, they will. And Messi's here.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Yeah,
got to be ready. Got to be ready.
yeah.
Speaking of getting ready, we're getting ready to talk a little bit about some free agents. Um, a lot of moves. Like this was been a very eventful um, free agency so far, in my opinion. A lot of things going on, a lot of moving pieces. So, what are some of the moves you've seen from around the league that you thought were just some good moves for teams, or just maybe some crazy moves that have been going on?
Man, Derrick Henry in Baltimore is just crazy.
Right.
Like it's what I expected. I expected that before last year even started. It just seemed like it was a perfect match made in heaven. But the fact that it's actually like gonna happen is just I'm excited to watch them because man, like the read options with the best running back, the best pure like runner in the league, and then the best running quarterback we've ever seen. That's just gonna be fun to watch. Like that's as a football fan, that's what I'm most excited about. And then there's some other moves. I mean, Kirk Cousins to the Falcons was kind of expected. We got to see Daniil Hunter, Jordan Will Anderson, and that front in
Yeah.
Houston. I mean, Houston, they're. We talked about Houston last year as like a team that could upset a team and make it to the
Right.
divisional like they did. But I mean, next year they got to have AFC Championship hopes with that roster they have there. So
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think Houston is one of the winners of free agency so far. I've seen a lot of people say that. Joe Mixon is now in their backfield. Their defense. Um, Obviously, they're going to have a lot of the receivers returning. C.J. Stroud in his second year. So yeah, that team again. They're looking to make some noise in the AFC. Green Bay getting Josh Jacobs. The Vikings getting AJ, or not AJ Green. Uh, the running back for the
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Man,
There we
I'm
go.
sad about that. I love Aaron Jones and I loved him on the Packers. And I mean, from a long term standpoint, Josh Jacobs is probably the better player with his
Right.
age. But man, Aaron Jones he's a better running back. If you have him healthy for a game, he's a better running back than Josh Jacobs, in my opinion. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
his
He,
entire
he can
career,
stay healthy for sure.
he's been like a 5.5 yards per carry guy lots of years. Like he is just electric. And so I kind of wish the Vikings still had a quarterback back there. That offense would be ridiculous with Aaron Jones at it if they still had Kirk.
Hmm.
But we'll see what they have going at quarterback. Don't they have Darnold right now?
Yeah, yeah. So the Minnesota Vikings brought in Sam Darnold. They'll probably still go quarterback in the draft, I'm assuming. So I think they'll still go quarterback. But yeah, right now on the roster, it looks like it's just Nick Mullins, Sam Darnold, and Jaron Hall. So I expect them to go JJ McCarthy or maybe even trade up in the draft for a quarterback because they definitely need a quarterback. I don't think your long term plan can be Sam Darnold when Justin Jefferson's there. I think Justin Jefferson is looking for more, stability at the QB position. But hey, I mean, I think Sam Darnold can be a good bridge quarterback for the Vikings. Um, again, it's interesting because the Vikings do have a good roster. It's just I don't know if they're going to be able to get over Green Bay and Detroit this year.
Yeah, that division is looking like it's going to be one of the better ones of football. Especially,
Mhm.
I mean, even with what the Bears have done this offseason, adding
Right.
pieces, which we knew they would do with all the cap space they had, and then they'll obviously get Caleb Williams. And so that division, honestly, it went from like worst to not first quite, but man, all those teams could be 10, 11, 12 win teams.
Right. Yeah, even the Bears, again, they still have the first pick and the ninth pick. So there's still moves to be made by them. Um, so they're not done yet. They're not done making moves. That's a division that's going to be highly competitive. Again, if the Vikings are able to get a quarterback that comes in and plays well, that's another team that's going to be right there in the mix of it. So that to me is going to be really entertaining to watch. The AFC South too is going to be interesting to watch because you have all these young quarterbacks. Tennessee just got Calvin Ridley. I don't really know if that puts them on the top. I still think they're going to be the bottom feeder in that division, but they still have playmakers over there. But again, you have Trevor Lawrence over there. You have Anthony Richardson, and you have CJ Stroud. I mean, they got some good young quarterbacks over there in the South. And in the NFC South, like you just said, they got Kirk Cousins now over there. The Bucs just won their division, so they're looking to fight. Obviously, you have the Saints, who always float around, 8 to 9 wins, and they're still trying to build their team up with Derek Carr and that defense and everything. So that's going to be another division where they kind of compete, and anyone can kind of win that division.
Yeah, honestly, this upcoming season, there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of teams that could win their division. Like we talked about the NFC North, NFC South. All 8 of those teams in both those divisions can win the division. Now, Atlanta it really depends on how Kirk Cousins comes back, but
right,
him with those weapons, and they have their defense is decent. It's good enough to get the job done. With those weapons that they have, that offense could be. If Kirk plays like he did at the beginning of last year, that offense is top 5, top 6 in the league.
Right. Yeah.
And people sleep on their offensive line as well. Like that's one thing they don't have to worry about, like upgrading that part of the offense because that part has been set in stone the last few years. And so I look at that team. That team probably has the best weapons in the league at this point. And hopefully Kirk can get some use out of Kyle Pitts, which they haven't been able to do so far. So
yeah, I really like Atlanta. Again, Kirk Cousins, I know he's 36. He's coming off of an ACL tear. But I think they'll be all right. I think he's going to be able to put up good numbers. I think the Falcons are going to be able to be a playoff team. So I'm excited to see them for sure. Tony Pollard, like you said, Derrick Henry went over to Baltimore. That run game is going to be lethal. Tony Pollard went over to the Titans now. They picked up some pieces. The Broncos let go of Justin Simmons. Thank God, because I feel like he was the only guy in that division that consistently picked up Patrick Mahomes.
Every game.
Now we don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised. Wait, has he went to a team yet?
Huh?
Has he gotten picked up yet?
No.
I'm surprised. I mean, he's still a top 5 safety.
Right.
He's shown it last year. I mean, the fact that they released him just shows that they're in a complete just like tear it down mode, because if you want to win games, that's a player you want on your roster. Like,
right.
Now we're kind of set at that position with Reed, Connor, Cook. But man, like imagine taking Justin Simmons and going against the Broncos and killing them twice a year. But I'm not gonna lie, one guy that I've been looking at and that I'm just waiting for us to announce as a signing is Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when he plays, he's elite. He's one of the most naturally gifted tackles that the league has seen.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's still sitting there, we don't have a permanent solution at left tackle yet, unless they think Wanye is that, which I don't think they do. And it also saves us the luxury of not having to draft one for the time being, at least with our first round pick. We could still spend our second or third round pick on it, but then we could go get a receiver that we missed out on throughout free agency. And so I really just, if we can get Tyron Smith, man, we could even sit him half the games, like do some weird stuff and don't even play him just so he makes it to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love to see the Chiefs bring in a guy like that. I know a lot of people want to see the Chiefs bring in receivers, but I would love to get the just the offensive line taken care of because there's some good receivers in the draft. There really is. There's a lot of good receivers in the draft. Obviously, I still think they can sign maybe like a Curtis Samuel or Hollywood Brown to like a cheap deal. Tyler Boyd's still out there as well. But another name that's floating around there now that is going to be available is T. Higgins. What would you be willing to give up for a guy like T. Higgins?
Nothing. I would not give up anything for T. Higgins, like draft pick wise, because I wouldn't want to sign him if he was a free agent.
Really? Unless
like there's no market for him, which we know that's not the case. Because giving up draft compensation on top of having to pay him, when I feel like we don't need to do that. And also, especially with this Chris Jones deal getting done, which we haven't talked about on the pod yet. I don't know if you have on live yet,
Right.
but and we have to pick and choose our battles, and we know that the core we have together right now can get the job done with every piece around it alternating. And so I don't want to try to add a guy to that core in T. Higgins that we know we've won 2 championships without a top 30 wide receiver one. So
Yeah, I mean, I think you can definitely, go pick up some guys and you'll be okay. If you draft some receivers and you sign a wide receiver, I think you'll be fine. They did end up picking up a tight end in Irv Smith Jr. So they got him there for a year. They signed him to a 1-year deal. Some other guys that the Chiefs have either re-signed. You have Mike Pennell. He re-signed today. Dion Bush. And then, of course, you have Chris Jones and Drew Tranquill. So, what do you think so far that the free agency has been for the Chiefs? Do you like it?
I mean, it's been pretty uneventful. Irv Smith really isn't like a signing that's a very notable signing. He'll probably be behind Gray on the depth chart as our third guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm glad we re-signed Pennell, but typically we end up with him on our team. It just takes a while. Like it might be week 11 and we're like, oh, we don't know how to defend the run. Let's get Mike Pennell back on the team. And so us re-signing him is good for the run defense as far as that's concerned. But I mean, it's been this free agency has been pretty chill for us. We just haven't really done much. Drew Tranquill getting the re-signing is huge, but did you see that Willie Gay got signed for $5 million?
Yeah,
or less
1
than
year,
$5
$5 million with the New Orleans Saints. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what y'all think, but as a Chiefs fan, watching Willie Gay for the last 4 years, okay, he looks like he deserves more than $5 million a year.
Yeah,
like I would have loved. I feel like the fact that we didn't keep him for that price means that we know that we are confident with the 3 of Chenal, Tranquill, and Bolton. That we know that Chenal can step up into whatever role that Bolton and Tranquill don't fill, because I feel like that price is too good. Like I don't know how you don't keep him for that price, but if we didn't, I mean, we trust Brett Veach. But I mean, we really haven't done much. Hopefully, we see a Tyron Smith or a Curtis Samuel signing in the next couple of days. That's what I'm hoping for.
That's what I didn't understand is he signed a 1-year, $5-year deal with the Saints. And I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, the Chiefs could have gave him at least 1 for $7. So, yeah, that tells me that they were comfortable with moving on with Leo Chenal or Drew in that position. I'm going to miss Willie Gay. I feel like he was a great run stopper, and he was a locker room guy, good guy. So, yeah, I hate to see him go. I would love for him to stick around. And we also had Nick Allegretti. Nick Allegretti got paid by Washington. I'd love to see that.
Yep.
He's kind of been a backup offensive lineman for the Chiefs, but he just got paid good to go and play for the Commanders. Love to see that. Some moves in our division. You have the Broncos obviously getting rid of Russell Wilson. He's moving on to Pittsburgh. There'll be a new quarterback in Denver, so it just gets easier for Mr. Mahomes. Then you have new quarterback in Oakland, in Vegas with the Raiders. You have Gardner Minshew. He looks like him and Aiden O'Connell probably will be battling out for the QB position. Again, better for Mr. Mahomes because neither of those guys are going to move the needle. And then, of course, you have the Chargers. You have Austin Eckler leaving the Chargers. So they're losing some of the weapons. They don't have Mike Williams anymore either. This is very much a rebuild year for a lot of these teams in the AFC. I think the Raiders are the one team that believes they have a chance, but they really don't. But Chargers and Broncos, this is a rebuild year for them. I just feel like this division, this is the first year where, like, on paper, they're not even looking good. Usually on paper every year, it's like, oh, like all the teams look good. And the Chargers are always picked to win the division. But this year, I think this is going to be the first year they're not even picked to win the division. I think the Chiefs can really just dominate this division.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the Chargers always underperform, which is partly due to injuries. And typically one of those big injuries is not having Mike Williams. Well, now there's just we're not even going to act like they have Mike Williams to start the year. So there's really no difference there. Mike Williams could be a guy that I'm like, man, if the market for him isn't good and he's not getting any two-year offers, hey, come over to the dark side for a year. You know what I'm saying? We'll treat you right, get you a ring.
Yeah. Would you? I was just going to ask that. So, would you bring in a guy like Mike Williams, or would you rather just go sign another receiver?
I'd rather get a Curtis Samuel just because he is a year and a half younger, and honestly,
Right.
recently his production has been similar. I mean, 600 yards on a Washington team isn't bad. He'll probably, I don't know if he'll probably be cheaper just based off the fact that he doesn't have much production in his career. But Mike Williams, man, if you were to tell me that he would play 14, 15, 16 games, I'm like, okay, throw him the bag, whatever the bag
Yeah.
is in this current market.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing is I like Mike Williams because every time he plays us, he is just mossing us. Like he just absolutely destroys us. But the only problem is, he does that. He'll have five catches where he mosses us in the first quarter, in the second quarter, then he doesn't play the rest of the game.
Yeah, and
He
it's
just gets
unfortunate for the
hurt.
guy. It's unfortunate because a lot of them have been just like huge injuries too, not just like, oh, his body's made of glass. It's like, oh, his ligaments are tearing, and this is super unfortunate.
Right.
Non-contact stuff. So I hope now that he's especially not on the Chargers, I hope that he can rebound and get back to like the player that he could have
Yeah.
been.
Absolutely. Yeah. So moves there. And then the Raiders also brought in a guy like Christian Wilkins. I think that'll help them a lot. Because, like I said, to be honest with you, these teams in the AFC, they're going to need a lot of help. The team that I thought would be a little bit more invested into free agency and really bringing more guys in was the Dallas Cowboys, and they've done absolutely nothing. Jerry Jones said they're going to be all in. They have not been all in. They have not been all in at all. Were you a little bit surprised by the Cowboys not bringing in a lot of guys this free agency?
Yeah, I am because I mean they're typically a player in free agency every year. They'll make at least one signing that's like, oh, that's a good player. Might be past his prime, like last year signing a Stephon Gilmore, but it's like they're typically throwing money at people because they go all in every year. They're the Cowboys. Like that's just what they do. That's why they do well in the regular season, even if it doesn't translate to playoff wins. And so the fact that they just let guys like Derrick Henry, Saquon, not even retaining Tony Pollard. So now they got Deuce Vaughn back there.
Yeah.
They have to draft a running back now. Like they don't have an option unless they are okay with settling for one of these low tier guys. They got Deuce Vaughn back there. And so I don't know what they're doing. I'm cool with it. Honestly, I'm cool with it. But they also might just be lowering expectations because they know that they're not gonna do anything. So I might as well just like not sign anyone and keep my money.
Yeah. I feel like that they're going to need a running back. I don't think you can go in the season with Deuce Vaughn as your number one. The Eagles I thought made some pretty good moves, bringing a guy like Saquon Barkley, and I actually predicted him to go to the Eagles. I thought he would. There was just something I was like, he's going to go to the Eagles. Swift was on the move from the Eagles. He's now on the Bears. So yeah, you had some teams just make moves. But the Vikings made some good moves. I thought the Bengals were an interesting one to me. I just get that vibe that the other teams in the division are starting to catch up with them. You have the Browns who are starting to make some moves. You have the Steelers that are trying to get the QB position right. And of course, you have the Ravens. This will really show what Joe Burrow is made of this year if he has to lose a T. Higgins and a Tyler Boyd. He's going to lose those two receivers and have the same offensive line. So it will be very interesting to see what type of guy he is having to play with some less receivers.
Yeah, the Bengals could get last in the division again. They could, and Joe
I
Burrow
think they
still.
will.
I think there's a very good chance. I think they have just a good chance. You should get some sleep after this. I think there's just a good chance the Bengals getting last as the other teams, because I mean the Steelers, they have their best quarterback they've had since probably 4 years before Ben retired. Honestly, the way he was looking late in his career, and the Browns keep adding people to a team that already was a playoff team, and the Ravens added Derrick Henry. So,
yeah, I think again a lot of big moves are being made right now. Again, even Jacksonville bringing in a guy like Gabe Davis. Some teams are making more moves than others. Some teams don't have to make a move. A lot of you Chiefs fans, real quick before we get out of here, a lot of Chiefs fans are kind of saying, "Oh, the Chiefs aren't making moves. Chiefs aren't making moves." Well, guys, you just won the Super Bowl. You make moves that when you have positional needs. Obviously, the Chiefs have to need they need a backup running back, they need a receiver, and they need an offensive line. But those obviously can be met in the draft, where you don't have to spend a lot of money. They just restructured Mahomes' contract, so they're going to bring somebody in. So don't worry if you feel like the Chiefs aren't really making a lot of moves. You just won back-to-back Super Bowls, and you have a majority of your roster returning. So you don't really have to sit there and make a lot of moves. So Chiefs fans, don't feel like you're worried because the Chiefs are quote-unquote not making a lot of moves. Zach, is there any last moves you saw the last couple of days where you really liked in the NFL that we wanted to talk about?
I know you brought it up, but the Wilkins move in Vegas not scary for like our chances at winning the division, but just scary to go against. Like that's a lot of guys coming in Mahomes that are good. They got Kuntz, who's developing. They obviously have Crosby. Now they have Wilkins, and then that's also going to take a lot of pressure off of Tyree Wilson, the second-year player, who was very highly regarded coming out of Texas Tech. And so their D-line it looks elite. It's elite on paper. It'll probably be elite considering it was pretty strong last year, even without Wilkins. And so that's probably my favorite move so far.
Yeah, a lot of good moves. There's obviously free agency is not done, so more and more is going to come. We're going to have, again, just continuously stuff flow in as we get closer to the draft. That's when, again, a lot of the Chiefs are going to make a lot of moves, or you could even see more trades, you can see more stuff filter in. There's still a lot of good free agents out there that the Chiefs could bring in that the Chiefs need. So make sure you guys comment below. What do you guys think the Chiefs should bring in, and who you guys think the Chiefs should bring in? And just comment below what draft needs you guys also think we should go get. And make sure you guys follow us on all social media. We'll be back next week with another episode of the TPT podcast, going over and kind of recapping all of free agency as free agency starts to wind down. The draft starts to pick up. We'll see you next time on the TPT podcast.
All right, bro.